Good morning. Welcome to this week's episode of The County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. We're bringing you our program today from the Garfield County Courthouse in Panguitch, Utah. We are here to talk about a change in the economic conditions of the county. There are many things happening down here, and quite often when we go through a cultural shift within a community because the economy has changed, the impacts are far-reaching. That's our subject today. We will start by looking at how the economy has changed by studying a case sample of a thriving industry that was once here, which is now gone. When we finish that, we will start a conversation with the impact it's having on the center of the community, the school system in Escalante, Utah. Here with that story to get things started is Don Dunwell.
In 1875, the Old West was slowly transitioning into the modern world, and the small Utah town of Escalante was taking its first steps as a new city. It has always been a tight-knit and tenacious community, farming, ranching, living off the land in an area of the state that still looks and feels much as it did 140 years ago. Keeping the town alive over the decades has been a difficult task for residents, especially now as the struggle is no longer about how to survive in this arid climate, but rather simple economics. The local sawmill that was once the lifeblood of the community now lies in ruin after an uphill battle that ended in defeat.
Escalante was hit with the perfect storm as far as the mill goes. We had the downturn in the economy. We had the housing market that went down. The mill had a fire, just one thing after another, and a timber sale that didn't come about because I believe of a lawsuit or something. And so it was a real downturn for the mill, and so we were hit from all sides.
The closing of the mill sent shockwaves through the community as suddenly the lifeblood of Escalante was cut off, affecting every other industry in the area.
When you're talking about a community of 800 people and you lose 60 jobs just from this community alone, plus other communities throughout the county and throughout Paiute County, we had truck drivers, we had loggers, we had people that worked on the mountain. You're talking about several counties here that this affected.
But in the last few years, since the demise of the sawmills and after we shut ours down, and I can't say that it's the main reason why we've seen the decline, but the school enrollment has dropped to about half or less than what it has historically been.
While some smaller timber operations remain in the area, industries dependent on natural resource extraction as a whole have been in steady decline for decades, particularly in areas that are made up largely of publicly managed lands.
The mills going under or shutting down, it's happening all over the West, and it's been happening for the last 10 years. And it's been a shift in economics and being competitive with Canada, Chile, Mexico, countries that are exporting logs to the United States. It isn't something that's unique to Escalante. Everywhere I've worked in the last 20 years, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, and now Utah, I've seen mills shut in all those states.
And whether it's the timber industry or the cattle industry, any of those industries that rely on a natural resource, the challenges that they're having for the most part are an outside influence. And by that I mean environmental movements with the legal ability to go in and try to stop or slow down a viable timber sale for your business, and the legal challenges on that project. If it's tied up in court for 2 or 3 years, then by the time it comes out of court, whether the government prevails or not, you may not be around to bid on it. And the rural communities don't have, for the most part, they don't have the wherewithal, the ability to fight those kinds of things. They're too busy out there trying to scrounge up a living.
The Forest Service maintains that they still manage for multiple use of the land, but admit that there has been a shift in their approach to that mission.
It's definitely changed. Definitely in my career, I've worked for the Forest Service for 35 years. I think we've gone from, a program of trying to maximize timber production to a program that is what you could categorize as ecosystem management. It's for other reasons. It's wildlife habitat, it's fuels reduction, it's We're trying to promote a certain species such as aspen. So there's a lot more reasons right now for us to do veg projects than there probably was 20 years ago when it was more about just maximizing timber production and supplying the mills. We're still a multiple use agency. We allow multiple uses up on the forest. A lot of people don't like that. They would like us to be, more like an agency such as the Park Service that is more preservation. So that is controversial just in itself, that we're a working forest. But what makes it difficult for us is we have to adhere to all the national laws passed by Congress, signed by the President, that apply to National Forest System lands.
For Escalante and the people who live and work there, environmental movements, litigation, and land management practices are more than just buzzwords thrown around at government meetings. Here, they have real impact and force residents to rethink their futures. For Shannon Steed, one of the brothers who worked at the mill, his won't be in the timber industry.
What's the future of a sawmill here in Escalante? Who wants to take that kind of a risk? Do you want to go put everything you own on the line to lose? I don't, again. I've taken a beating. I'm not going to do it again.
For the county seat, I'm Don Dunwell.
We've now had a look at the impact a failing industry has on a community in rural America. We will now turn our attention after this commercial break to what impacts it has on other cornerstones of a community. We'll be right back with the county seat.
There is a place where looking out means looking in, where an impression lasting only a few seconds will be imprinted on a life forever, where courage is forged and innocence rediscovered, where remembering is rewarding and forgetting unforgettable. There is a place where truth is felt and where seeing is believing. There is a place.
Davis County is the amusement capital of Utah, where people of all ages can enjoy fun rides and family attractions all year long. Experience over 50 thrilling rides at Lagoon, bowling or miniature golf at Boondocks, cool off with the family at Cherry Hill, or get out of the house and over to the Rush Funplex. There's no end to the fun you can have in Davis County. Come to eat, stay, and play. Plan your next visit by going to playindavis.com and discover the fun for yourself.
Welcome back to the county seat. Our conversation today stems with the state of emergency declared in Garfield County about their schools and the dire situation their school district faces. We're going to continue that conversation right now. Joining us for the discussion is Del Lefevre, commissioner from Garfield County, Ben Dalton, who is the superintendent of Garfield County School District, and Leland Pollock, a regular on county seat, who is also a commissioner here from Garfield County. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time for this conversation today. In the declaration of the state of emergency, some people would look at the newspaper articles of last week, a couple of weeks ago, where this whole thing started, and they would say, well, that just looks like grandstanding. That's a public relations ploy. What does a declaration of emergency, a state of emergency, bring to the table in a discussion?
Typically in a school year, we may see plus or minus 10 students in or out of our system. But this year, from October 1 of 2014 until May of 2015, there were 42 students who left our district. So we decided to go back and do some historical data. And what we found was a significant decline in student enrollment since the mid-90s.
I want the viewers to know when the parks all shut down, 93% of Garfield basically shut down. The monument was part of it. They even tried to shut down parts of Highway 12 because it goes through Bryce Canyon. It caused all kinds of problems, and economically it was a disaster. So that whole process started with the counties. The counties declared a state of emergency. That's what started it. And we all know how successful that was. That is still to this day touted by the governor as one of the most successful things we've pulled off as a state. We work every day on these issues, and very seldom do we get this kind of attention. But what you have to do first is you have to identify the problem. You have to be real about it. The school district came to us with the numbers of 50 children, 7th through 12th grade, in Escalante, in their school, 7th through 12th grade. Just 20 years ago, it was 139 children. So you can see that drop in numbers is very dramatic. And we feel like that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that that community is helped out in any way possible, and this county is helped out. But back to that school situation, we're not, closing it is not an option. We're demanding help, and we're getting help, and it's been very positive.
So the declaration actually gave you a chance to start focusing and getting public officials to look at the situation. What's happened since it was declared?
I have been contacted by representatives and senators, and they want to be involved and they want to know what's happening. Also other superintendents and Governor's Office of Economic Development has stepped in. We have seen people who we typically may not be worried about what's happening in our county taking an interest. And that's what we'd like to see happen, is those key people, whoever they may be, come to the table and give us solutions and suggestions and help so that we can have something that everyone can live with and help to increase our economic development in our county.
Excellent. We're going to take a quick break here on the county seat. We will come back and continue our conversation on the state of emergency that exists in Garfield County about the schools in Escalante. We'll be right back after this break.
Kanab, base camp for your southern Utah adventures. You belong in Kanab.
What would you do with an extra day in Utah Valley? Explore the Wasatch Mountains? Snap a family photo at Bridal Veil Falls. Cool off on Utah Lake or the Provo River. No matter what you're searching for, you can find it in Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are down in Garfield County in Panguitch at the county courthouse talking about the situation with the school in Escalante, Utah. And I want to come back to you for a second, Ben, because I live on the Wasatch Front. And so I've had conversations about this prior to my trip down here today. And the first thing people say to me is, well, why not just close the school and send them to the next one? What kind of an impact does that have on your school district?
First of all, that's not an option to even consider, because the schools are the lifeblood of our communities. People who make that statement don't understand what the purpose of the schools are in our communities. They're educational facilities, they're central hubs, they are everything that those communities have and stand for. So we need those schools. Also geographically, Garfield County is so geographically separated that if a student in Boulder was required to go to the next closest high school, it would take them approximately 2 hours in between bus stops one way. So it'd be 2 hours to get to the high school, the next closest high school, and it'd be 2 hours on a return trip. And we know that that's not productive for the students who are going to be involved in our academic classes throughout the day, and so that's why it's not an option. We're doing everything we can to keep those schools open, and we intend to keep those schools open.
What is the status on the ground at your high school as far as minimum requirements and everything?
At Escalante High School, we have an educational offering that is deficient compared to other schools because we can only offer the minimum classes needed for graduation. We don't have any additional foreign language classes or elective classes. Many times students who graduate from Escalante High School actually have to repeat those electives that they've had in prior years. So we have 5.5 full-time teachers at Escalante High School, and that is the minimum number of teachers we could have and still offer a diploma. So when people say scale the faculty back, scale the teachers back, that's not an option. They are as small as they can possibly be and still be able to award a diploma.
What is the solution, I guess, is my question. What is it?
You talk about busing kids. Garfield County is the same land size as Connecticut. So one of the issues we deal with is 93% of this county is owned by the federal government. Go back to the state of Connecticut and create 93% federal land and see what happens. It's not realistic to even say that, to expect that. But if you did it back in the state of Connecticut, you'd have all kinds of problems. So when you talk about Garfield County and what the solutions are, the federal land space in this county is massive. Congress has to come to the table, for one. Congress has to put pressure on the federal agencies, and then they have to come to the table. The federal agencies have very restrictive policies now, we know that. But it's something that can be fixed, we believe that. Congressman Stewart has been in touch with me. He's personally called me a couple of times. He called the other day and he said, what can we do to help? If we have to do a congressional fix, I'm all for it. I'll do whatever it takes. This can be fixed. And it's not like Escalante is a ghost town. It's not. What we're talking about is how do you sustain families? How do you put jobs into that community that will sustain a family? And tourism, we go overboard advertising and promoting tourism, but it's not enough. It's a minimum wage job. It's not the type of job, plus it's seasonal. You know, that just augments an economy. That's not a baseline economy sustenance for jobs.
If you need jobs back, there would be some people who'd say, well, if you never had them, you only are occupying 3% of the county, the rest of it's federal, then obviously it wasn't there. Is this just a case of, well, it's always been a small town, it's a small town, deal with it?
Back when the public land was managed for multiple use, we absolutely had those jobs. There was 350 jobs at the sawmill here. In Escalante, there was 85 at the sawmill. Back when you had hard rock mining in the county, you had those jobs. Okay, we have been there. In this town, people don't even remember it. There used to be 2 car dealerships in Panguitch, 3 grocery stores, 10 gas stations, a Western Auto, a Sears store. So for the locals and the natives of this county, we know that multiple use is the only answer for that federal land, not minimum use. And what you have now is minimum use of that land. Ranchers are being removed from the range. They've stopped the logging industry. They're constantly trying to close roads and cut off access to that land. It's being managed for minimum use. And this is what the result is when you do that.
Is there a lot of pressure to pull up stakes? Because
yeah, the environmental communities want the cows gone. And we've just been targeted for 7 allotments to be closed in the Grand Staircase. But the problem we have is the regulations are so strong now that you can't go do things on your ranch. I can't, I have a struggle to even fixing a pond or a reseed or taking some of these juniper pines down. It's already been railed one time. And so the grass is shrinking because of the PJs and sagebrush. And so it makes it tougher. I've got an allotment out there that I can run 400 head on. This winter I had 150 on it.
So Ben, what is the prescription? You're the superintendent. You sit in the middle of this. You see the schools. You know it's the nucleus of the community. What's the prescription?
I wish I knew, but I know it's going to take everyone to find it. And it can't be just one entity by itself. It takes everyone around the table with the common goal to improve our communities, improve our economic developments. If we have jobs, we know that we will have families, and if we have families, we'll have students. So we know that that's the key, but I don't have all the answers, and I don't know if any one person does. That's what I appreciate about the resolution, is it requires those key players to come around the table within 30 days and have this discussion.
Has everybody responded to the declaration or the resolution?
We've had all kinds of response, and that's been one of the benefits of that declaration. Congressional response. The governor's office has been in constant contact with us. They've promised resources. The legislature, many members of the legislature has contacted us, and there's a strong awareness now that we did not have. We see this every day. We see these problems. Dell and I work on these economic problems and these public land issues every day. You know, that's not a stump speech to get reelected. That's my life. We do. We as a commissioner, you're working on these problems on a daily basis. And that's my job. I'm not complaining. That's what we do. But nobody seems to know. And nobody seems to do anything about it until you get to a point where the school superintendent comes in a work meeting and says, hey, we're down to 51 kids in Escalante, 7th through 12th grade. Then you know you have to take additional steps, and that's what we're doing. And as I said before, so far, we like the results of this declaration. We like what we're seeing.
So how much, I know, well, let's just save this for the next break. We're just about ready for commercial break. We will take a break here on the county seat. We'll be back in just a minute, and we'll continue our conversation.
Unlimited opportunity for adventure. It's all about knowing where to look. ATV adventures, rock crawling events, art festivals, and wildlife events. The opportunities are limitless. Plan your stay and join us for MCR Racing at the Millard County Raceway and Millard County Fair, August 5th through the 8th. Pick your adventure in Millard County.
If you like the outdoors, there's not a better place to be. And like today for us, for instance, how many people did we run into? I mean, we really, you know, you've got this beautiful land pretty much to yourself, and where do you want to go? You want to go there? Go there. You know, it's wide open. It's amazing.
Isn't it time you found the balance you've been looking for? Uinta County, Utah.
If you're looking for the center of the universe, well, good luck. But if you're looking for the center of the off-road universe, look no further than Paiute County. Hundreds of miles of trails turn your day of riding into a week, maybe a month. Heck, a lifetime wouldn't be enough. And this coming August is the perfect opportunity to hit the trail and participate in the Paiute Trail Jamboree. Take off from downtown Maryville by ATV or UTV and ride the most famous destinations in the world. Explore Paiute County and discover the magic and beauty of the land where the rainbow ends.
Welcome back to the county seat. We were talking about the education situation in Garfield County, the decline in student enrollment. I want to go back to you and have Ben, have you just talk about what the situation is in population. You're obviously sliding down a slope. You brought this to attention before you're at the cliff. Where's the cliff?
Right now, we're not at a place to say that there is a cliff. We're not there yet, but just to draw into perspective some of the numbers that we were looking at, in 1890, Garfield County had 748 students. If we continue to see the same decline over the next 3 years that we experienced this year, we will be at 748. So to think that your student population will be the same as it was in the 1800s is scary to us. We've seen a decrease in student enrollment from the peak until present day of 292 students. And if you're on the Wasatch Front, that may not seem like that many students, but 292 students is equivalent to all of our students at Panguitch High School, 9 through 12, and all the students at Bryce Valley High School, 7 through 12. If you combine those student populations, we've basically lost 2 high schools, or the enrollment equivalent of 2 high schools in our district. So we wanted to bring that to the attention of the county commissioners and anybody else who will listen, that we need students in our schools.
I take from that money is grants aren't going to help you keep the doors open of the school.
Additional money doesn't do much to bring students in our buildings unless it's going towards economic development. Additional money may help pay the power bills, open the doors, but that doesn't mean that a student's going to walk into our building. We need those jobs to bring families to our communities.
You know, you had mentioned earlier it's the lifeblood of the community. People in an urban area were going, well, there's another school, there's always something else to do. What do you mean by that?
No, there's not another school. There's just something else to do. I'll equate it to a Utah Jazz on the Wasatch Front. Maybe you're a Jazz fan, maybe you're a Bees fan, maybe you like to go to City Creek Mall, and you do those things that people in urban areas like to do. You have your favorite things. And if those things were going to go away, if the state was going to announce, or the Miller Association was going to announce that we're going to close the Jazz, they're leaving, how many people would be upset because they love that? That's what would happen to us. We can't close schools because that's all we have. That's our Utah Jazz, that's our Bees, that's all of our shopping malls. It's all in one place. That's what our people associate with, identify themselves with, and they are the heart of our communities.
So it's not only an educational hub, the school in this community is the cultural hub
Absolutely.
as well?
Absolutely.
Good. Gentlemen, your thoughts on this in closing?
Go ahead, Dale.
Well, I think Ben hit it right. I mean, you take that school out of Escalante and you kill the city, you kill the town. It's dead. And nobody's going to want to even come there and live because there's no school. And I've watched the school. It's sad to see what it was when I went to school. From 1960 till now, it took a real drop. And back when I went to school, the sawmills was going. They had jobs at the sawmill, low paying, but they all had a few cows, and they had kids. And now, with the economics of whatever in ranching, that's gone away. It's just there's only 3 or 4 ranches left, and they're bigger, but they don't. I'm running what 23 families used to live on, and it's sad, you watch this because you can't make a living with 50, 100 cows anymore. It just don't work. And I guess I've got a real feel for Escalante because I graduated in high school. My great-great-granddaddy all come into Escalante, and so I've got deep roots there. And it just makes me sad to think that some chance that school might go away. And that's why we've got to do everything we can to keep that school going. I mean, we have to all stick together and quit fighting each other and make that school work.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. There's so much more on this issue to cover. If you're the least bit concerned about it or curious about it, I implore you, go to our website, thecountyseat.tv, click on this episode. You'll find some links. You can get some more information about this situation and get a grasp of the details of it. Thank you for joining us on The County Seat. We'll look for you next week. Remember, local government is where your life happens. Become part of the solution. Get involved. We'll see you next week. If you like this video, then we invite you to subscribe to our channel, The County Seat. You can do that here. And we invite you to share with your friends. We also invite you to get all the latest up-to-date information by following us on our social media channels. And if all else fails, make sure that you watch The County Seat Sunday morning at 8:30 right here on ABC4.